Okay, hello students again. So in this video, we are going to study the grammar points and some important parts for this unit. And don't forget and make sure that you have already listened one more time the target vocabulary and start this video, okay? Because the grammar part is actually combined with the target vocabulary, so it's very important to know all the words in this unit and then start the grammar part. So before I just move on with the grammar part, I will just tell you what is a summarize, okay? And then I will talk about the examples and the other grammar points as well. So the summarize is something that you do while you are reading a book or kind of a small paragraph. For example, when you read a story, after the story, the things that in your mind, what do you remember? What can you tell me about the story? And even the characters, the weather, anything you remember is a kind of actually this summarize itself. Okay, so in this part it says after we read a part of a text or a story, we can summarize what we read. Okay, this means what we can write or talk about the main points in the sentence or two. Okay, so now we will just read a small story, and after the story I want you to think and tell me at least 2 or 3 sentences about this part. It's very important to actually make it short, because summarizing is something, it's actually, we can say, it's a short way to say one thing important, okay, the main idea. We can say it's actually main idea. So now let's just check out the paragraph and then we will talk again. So I will read, please follow me, just read with me, and don't forget to read one more time by yourself. You can pause the video, because when you read yourself, it's actually better to understand. You can understand better, you can actually understand the main idea, you can actually say more sentences about the paragraph. So I will start now. So Sandra packed her sleeping bag, backpack and camera in the car. Her father came out of the house with 2 fishing poles. You know what is pole, right? Kind of actually bag. And are you ready for our fishing trip, Sandra? He asked. Okay. And the girl says, Sandra says, yes, Dad, replied Sandra, I hope we can catch tonight's dinner. So it's actually a very short paragraph and it's very funny. So just now think about what you can tell me about this paragraph in 2 or 3 sentences. What's the main idea? What's the summary here, okay? So it says Sandra and her dad are blah blah. Okay, what actually they are going to do? What can you tell me? Yes. Of course, they are going to fishing, okay? They are actually trying to find what they can eat for the dinner. And in the end of the paragraph, actually, Sandra says, I hope we can catch tonight's dinner, right? So she's talking about the fish. And we can understand that the Sandra and her dad are actually going to fishing together, and they will try to catch some fish for the dinner, okay? So this sentence, they are going to go fishing together. This sentence is actually my summary, okay? What can I understand from this paragraph, and what can I say, what they are going to do, okay? This is actually a short way to say the story. This is actually summarize. So now I will just move on with the grammar part. So open page 100, I'm just telling now, 141, okay? So this part is actually, you will remember from the previous units that it's about comparative and superlative adverbs, okay? We will actually talk about between 2 things or only one thing. So I will just go deeper and deeper, but first I want you to listen this kind of story or song, and then try to read the sentences one more time and try to find out what's the different point here. I mean, there are lots of different sentences here. For example, I can give an example. For example, Harry came the earliest. Just think about what is early. You know what is early? Early and late, they are opposite meanings. And just try to guess, try to find the meaning. What's the different point here? And then I will just go deeper for the grammar part. So let's listen together now.
Page 141. Grammar in use. D. Listen. and read along.
I thought I came early for the movie. I came earlier than you. We're still at the end of the line. Harry came the earliest. In fact, he was the first person here.
Yes, it's a kind of small story, and we have 4 sentences here, and in my opinion, these sentences are enough to understand the grammar point here. So listen to me carefully, and you can take some notes, because it's very important. You will actually learning a new topic, okay? And comparative and superlative adverbs, okay? So it says, I thought I came early for the movie, okay? And then the orange one says, I came earlier than you. The important point is here, this sentence. He or she says, I came earlier than you. This actually earlier and then, it's actually our grammar part here. It means, no, you didn't come first. I just came earlier than you. I was here. You were absent. He is talking about this. And we are still we are still at the end of the line. Okay? We are just still actually waiting. And for the next sentence, we see that Harry came the earliest. We have earlier here and earliest. The earlier is the comparative form of this word, and the earliest is the superlative form of this word. Okay? If you want to use comparative form, you have to talk about between actually two things or two people. Okay? Like here, I came earlier than you. Okay? I played better than you. Okay? We have 2 things, and I am comparing these things together. But for this superlative form, actually, this is only one thing. There is only one thing that who or whatever you call, do something or say something. It means that Harry came the earliest. We can understand that Harry is the first person who came to this line, okay? Earliest. So, and for the last sentence, in fact, he was the first person here, as I said before. So, superlative and comparative are actually different from each other. So now, when I just actually talk about from this chart, you will understand better. And don't forget to take some notes, it's very important. So, use comparative and superlative adverbs to compare the same action, okay? Remember, an adverb describes an action. He is actually describing an action. So, we have adverb here. You know what is adverb, right? It's actually how you do this, how you can actually do these things. So, we have fast here. Fast, you know what is fast, right? And, for example, my friend can run very fast. And we have faster than. Faster than here means that you need 2 things, and you have to actually talk about between 2 things here. For example, my friend is faster than you, for example. I can give an example. Or my dad is faster than my mother, okay? You know, it's actually a kind of, you can give lots of different examples. For example, my computer is faster than yours. I'm just comparing 2 things. And for the superlative adverb, I can use the fastest. Fast, faster, and fastest. For example, I can give an example. My car is the fastest car in this class. Or my doll is the most beautiful doll in my room, for example. You can give lots of actually different examples. You can write them down, okay? You can actually find lots of different nouns and adverbs like this. And we have carefully. If actually one word, if it is, how can I say? If it's a word more than 3 syllables, you have to use more instead of ER and EST, let's say, words. What actually can be an example? It's like this, carefully. It's actually carefully, it's kind of a long word, and you can spell this word carefully. It's almost 3 syllables, something like that. So that's why you have to use more, okay? So more carefully than, and for the superlative adverb, we actually use the most carefully. For this reason, actually comparative and superlative are different from each other. For the comparative one, you have at least 2 things because you have to compare and contrast. And for the superlative one, you don't have 2 things or something like that. You can actually say one sentence itself. So Antonio made his glassware faster than before. Okay, faster than before. We can say that Antonio is actually, we can say, is studying, is working hard and hard. So he actually made his glasses this time faster than before. So this is a difference. So now we are going to circle the correct words in this part. We have 3 sentences. The first one is actually done. So what is this? He ran the fastest in the race. So we can understand that there were lots of people in the race, but he ran the fastest in the race. So we can understand that he actually was number 1. Okay. So and it is actually the superlative adverb. And I jumped higher or highest than Rick. What's the answer here? Of course, it is higher because actually we have 2 people here. The first one is I jumped, and we have Rick, than Rick. So I jumped higher than Rick. What is higher? It's actually higher and higher. So I can jump higher than Rick. So this is the answer. So please circle the higher here because I am talking about I can jump higher than Rick. We have 2 people here. And for the last sentence we have our class walked quietly or more quietly than their class. What's the answer here? Of course, more quietly, because the important part is here. We have again 2 classes, 2 things. I am just comparing 2 things. That's why I have to use not actually superlative. I have to use the comparative form. So I have to use actually more quietly than their class. So this is actually the answer. So please check your answers and don't forget to take some notes. Just write some words, some example sentences in your notebook. It's actually a good way to remember, and you can actually watch the video one more time. And please listen carefully. So now let's just move on the page 143. Okay, in this part we are going to talk about before and after. Okay, so I hope you have already known what is before and what is after. Okay, it says, we have 2 examples here, 2 example sentences. In the first sentence it says, before the invention of eyeglasses, many people couldn't see well. So this actually sentence is actually about the past, we can understand. I mean, before the eyeglasses. And you can ask a question, how did these people can see without these eyeglasses? It's actually hard. And it says before the invention of eyeglasses, many people couldn't see very well because they don't have eyeglasses. But after the invention of the airplane, this is another example, after the invention of the airplane, the world became a smaller place because the people started to fly between countries, so it makes actually easier their lives. It's very actually important invention for the people because it's impossible to go without these planes or airplanes to go from one side to one side. It's very actually hard. So now in this part, read the sentences, circle before or after. Okay. Again, we have 5 sentences here, and it's important just read the whole sentence and then choose the answers because it's very important to catch the meaning first. So now let's start together. So after or before dinner, we cleared the table and washed the dishes. So first you have to understand the sentence here. We cleared the table and washed the dishes. If you know these words, what actually they have, what they are meaning, so you can actually easily choose the correct answer. And what's the answer here? Of course, it is after, because when you actually have lunch, have dinner or have breakfast, after you eat something, you actually clear the table and wash the dishes, right? So it's actually the answer is after. And number 2, the tennis player received his trophy before or after the game. When actually do these players receive their trophies? Of course, after the game, right? They played very well and then they actually received their trophies. So the answer is actually here, after. And number 3, Chris studied for many hours before or after the test. What's the answer here? Of course, it is actually before. Why? Because we actually learned that Chris studied for many hours, like you. When you have an exam, what do? You study hard. You study hard every day to actually get a good score from the test. Before you going actually to an exam, you're actually studying hard. The same actually thing here. So Chris studied for many hours before the test, okay? And then he actually entered the test. So Marisa felt very tired and stiff before or after the 10-hour flight. What is 10-hour flight here? It's actually a kind of it's about flying, right? We can understand that she flew actually 10 hours and then she felt very tired and stiff. So before or after? Of course after. Like you, right? You are the students and you are going to school every day, and after the school you feel tired, right? The same thing. After 10-hour flights, she felt very tired. That's the point. And the last question is, the girls went home after or before school. So when do you go home? Of course, after school, right? After school, you are going to go home and get relaxed. And just relax your mind, do your homeworks after school. So it was the actually grammar part. And this is the end of this video. So see you in the next video.